Voices carry journeys from quiet homes to crowded streets. Worlds unfolding in a conversation, an educational podcast, a circle of minds learning from each other. Aphamazwi ethathibana khona aphivelaphi zethu zibalisa amabali indawo yokwabelana ngezimvo ngehlabathi. Asifaya podcast imikhali ikhuzulwa ngubahle sive ngicela umfo wasemamfeleni olisa ohlathi ojambase imfene zimabutho ahlutana ukuthola kwelanga. Asifaya podcast.
Everybody, let me welcome you on the new show, Asvaye Podcast. This is a new episode, and thank you for sitting right there to watch us, to enjoy this episode, and don't forget to subscribe. And today we have a phenomenal guest, and I'm not alone. Before we go to her, Makaveli, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, Mr. Bashle. Asvaye is the name of the podcast. You can get us on YouTube. Yeah, for now.
Spotify as well.
Spotify, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah. And across all social platforms.
Yeah, in the near future, we'll be all over. My Apple and all those digital streaming platforms. Yeah. We have a phenomenal guest, as he said before. This intro, Sinazo Nindi.
Yeah. Sinazo, thank you for coming here and making your time to actually be here. We don't normally get female guests, so this moment we sort of hold to it so much. Thank you for making time to be here. How do you feel?
Thank you so much. I'm nervous, actually. I'm very nervous.
Don't worry, it's normal for me.
Yeah, and especially since you've mentioned that you don't get a lot of female guests. Maybe this will be the first of many. Please, ladies, come. Come.
Yeah, actually, a third guest.
The third female guest.
Yeah, we can count.
Oh, okay. So thank you guys for inviting me, and I love the work that you're doing. I love it. I've been watching since a year ago, and I love the progress. I love how you've been improving each time. And looking at the near future, I see you there.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Those
are flowers we're gonna keep. And maintain it. Yeah. And how was the road coming here for you?
It was fine.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with this side of town. Yes, so it was not really a challenge.
So your presence here today mean we're gonna talk about property. We're gonna talk about real property, to be specific. So how do people access property regardless of their economic state? I mean, like, regardless of how much they are earning, regardless of where they are situated. How do people get their hands on the property sector and start profiting or start even owning? Can anyone be a property owner? Can anyone make money from property space?
Absolutely, yes. Anyone. And I mean anyone. If you are of legal age, you are able to invest in property in South Africa, and you do not have to earn a lot of money. That's the biggest misconception people have. They think you need to be wealthy to invest in property. You need to earn a lot of money. Actually, no, you can earn as little as nothing, and you can invest in property in South Africa. So anyone is welcome to take part in the property ecosystem. I call it an ecosystem because there's no one way of making money in property, and you do not actually have to own a physical property for you to profit from real estate or property in South Africa. So the biggest misconception is that you need to have a lot of money up front. You need to be wealthy. Actually, no.
I mean, that's what I thought myself, because you remember Kaveli having these conversations about property from time to time. That's what I thought, Uguti. Maybe you have to have certain amount of money before you get into the space. So hearing you saying that, it's actually a relief. I want to start this conversation by asking maybe a scenario that you've seen around your working space, where you thought, or you had someone who thought they might not have a property, or they might not actually have access into this property ecosystem you're talking about. maybe someone who had a disbelief on themselves
Mm.
that they can actually enter this place and play around it?
There's a lady that approached me last year. She was she's employed, but she's not earning much. So she was like, Sis Nazo, I want to invest in property, but my problem is this: I do not earn much. I have children, I have responsibilities, but I see this is a cycle. It's never going to end. But then I want to supplement my income. I want to invest in property. How do I do that? I do not have any extra income. I do not earn much. I have that kind of scenario. And I asked her a few questions. Do you think the people who are investors right now, people who are making it big in property, do you think they started with a fat salary? Do you think they started with a lot of money and everything? She was like, yes, that's what I actually think. Then I told her and I showed her, you don't actually need a lot of money. There's ways you can invest in property with nothing. You can start with nothing, absolutely zero. There is deal sourcing. So when you source a deal for an investor, like let's say you are a deal sourcer, you do not own property, you've never invested in property, but I am an investor. I'm always busy. I'm out of the country. I have meetings. I do not have time. You have time. You have all the time in the world to,
because I'm unemployed.
You're
Sometimes,
unemployed. Yes. So you are able to go and find deals for me as the investor because I do not have time.
I love that. Yeah.
You go and find a deal for me. You make it attractive to me. When you come to present your deal, you've already done your numbers. So, Sis Nazo, I've seen this student accommodation. It costs this much, and the monthly repayments are gonna be this much, and your profit is gonna be this much. So this deal is actually profitable and it's lucrative for you. Can I sell you this deal? I do not have time to go around looking for properties. You have done that for me.
Yeah.
I do not have the luxury of time of doing the numbers and everything. So you have done that for me. You charge me a finder's fee. Have you not made money in property?
You did actually.
You did.
By just finding a right person, you can actually
Yes.
serve in around that.
Yes, you can connect people. You can find a property and connect it to an investor, and then you charge them a commission or a finder's fee.
I love that. Let's get into your personal space. How did you find yourself in this property space? I mean, looking at your profile, it was also amazing to see that you are mentored by people like Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
One of your mentors was actually here, Tapelo Jonas as well.
Yes.
Like, how did you find yourself into this space? And I saw as well on TikTok, they can check it out. You can give the TikTok handle there where you talk about property. I saw like the amount of work that you're putting and how valuable it is.
Yes.
How did you find yourself into this space yourself?
It's funny how it started, ne? I was doing my internship. I was out of varsity doing my internship. So we were bored, sitting around, not doing any work. So my friend brought me a book. He was like, friend, instead of us sitting around and doing nothing, let's read books just to pass time until we knock off. So I was like, it's okay. He gave me a book, The Secret. Do you know The Secret?
By Rhonda Byrne.
Yes, he gave me that book. I read the book and I finished reading the book, and then I was like, okay, what's next? He brought me another one. He said, here's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, and then I got hooked in reading books. I read so much books in that year. I was like a bookworm. Like, I was always, should I have free time? I'm reading a book. Should I have free time? I'm reading a book. So that's how real estate sparked me. So through me reading all of that, I noticed that I'm more interested in real estate, in reading about real estate. Yes. I read up on real estate. I read up on all the concepts, how to acquire property and everything. And back then, remember, I didn't have any income. It was not stable income. I got a stipend. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to read now and then I'm going to apply this later in my life. So that's how the interest started. And then actually after that, I started following Mr. Kiyosaki on Facebook. I know it was Facebook, yes. And then he posted this one day that he's opening up a mentorship program. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I signed up. I filled in the form and then submitted it, and then I forgot about it, whatever. But then I got an email back. They said, hello, Sinazo. We see you have interest in our mentorship program. We'd like to ask you a few questions. And they did. They scheduled a call with me. They called and to just profile me, like, where are you now? What are you doing? You're based in Africa, all of those things. I was upfront with them that I do not have any income at the moment. So whatever the mentorship is on, I do not have actual money to invest in property. And they were fine with that. They said, no, it's fine. We'll teach you theoretically now, and then you can apply these later in life when you have the income, when you have the leverage to approach the banks and everything. And then from there, I
never look back.
I didn't look back.
The rest is history, as
Yeah.
they say.
The rest is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What an interesting intro or insight into this real estate business or environment. Okay. In case you're wondering, who is this Sinazo? Okay, Sinazo Nindi is an award-winning property entrepreneur, real estate mentor, and financial literacy coach with a strong track record in South Africa's property sector. She's a former banking professional, having spent 6 years as a bank supervisor. That's interesting. Where she developed deep expertise in finance, credit, and wealth building systems. Sinazo has served as a board member within a landlord association, contributing to industry-level decision-making and advocacy for property stakeholders. She is also a published entrepreneur who has been featured in the business media for her achievements in property and entrepreneur. If you can check Times Live, you will find her article over there. And then her work today is focused on mentoring aspiring and active property investors, offering consultations and guiding clients through property strategy structuring and wealth creation. She currently coaches a select group of mentees while also running a property management business. Sinazo's perspective has been shaped through exposure to global investment frameworks, including mentorship, as she said, from Robert Kiyosaki herself, the author of the world-famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah. So she brings a practical, systems-based approach to building sustainable wealth through real estate. Wow. What?
It's a long journey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What a rich profile. What
Yeah.
a rich profile. So there are many ways to make money out of property. Just give us a few of those and then maybe break them down. I don't want to limit you and or maybe, or should I guide you? Maybe I hear on the internet or on YouTube.
No, it's
people-
fine.
Okay.
Like, just tell us what you know. How can people make money online?
Yeah.
I mean,
On
not
real estate.
On real estate.
Okay. There are many ways, right? So I'm just gonna dabble on a few, and especially those ones that I have personally engaged in. So if you I always tell people that you can start from zero, as we have discussed.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
myself, what I did before I had properties of my own, you can actually offer to manage someone's property. So there's a landlord, you approach them. Most landlords do not have time. Most landlords, they invest in Bloemfontein, but they stay in Pretoria or they stay in Cape Town. The property is just in Bloemfontein. So you approach those types of landlords to say, can I please manage your property for you? And then you can pay me a management fee at the end of the month. So it's totally up to your agreement if you're charging a 6% management fee from the rentals, or you can maybe on a commission-based type of agreement. So you maybe find the tenants for the landlord. You screen the tenants because it's also important. You don't want to find tenants that are troublesome for your client. You screen the tenants, you do the contracting, you put together their lease agreements, you make sure that they sign, you make sure they submit their documents, you manage the property, like if there's anything that needs fixing, maybe maintenance, maybe the geyser burst, you are the person that's going to call a plumber, you're the person that's going to call an electrician, because the landlord is in Cape Town, they're probably in a business meeting, they're busy, so you are bridging the gap between that landlord and the problems with their property. So you manage a property in that way. So you are taking away the stress from the landlord, you are putting it upon you, and then at the end of the month you charge a 6% management fee, you charge anything, it depends from you. What you can also do, you can be, like I mentioned, deal sourcing. You find deals, you connect it with an investor.
So on the first one, when you manage someone else's property, do you need to be enrolled with a certain body to actually help you that? Do you need an agency, or you can do it in an individual capacity?
You can do it on an individual capacity, but it's also advisable to do it under PPRA, the governing body of estate agents. It's advisable to do it that way, so that you can be protected, so that you follow the laws, you don't just do anything. So abiding by the law is very important when you are in this sector. You do not just do things the way you like. You need to be protected as well. You also need not to maybe abuse the industry and maybe charge fees that are above industry rates and everything. So you need to abide by those laws. And with deal sourcing, you do not need any registration or any certification for you to practice that. You can do it just out of your own knowledge and discretion, just between you and the landlord or the investor. What you can do to protect yourself, you can always have an attorney. You can have a property attorney that can advise you better to say, okay, you can charge this much, or the property laws in South Africa do not allow this. The property laws in South Africa are open to this. So with everything that you do, just make sure you are within the bound of the law. You do not just operate as you like.
So that's two. She gave us two. You gave us two, right?
Yes.
Do you have any?
Yes. Another way you can invest in property is by buying shares. You can buy shares in property. So let's say you want to buy shares at Sun Hotel. That's a hotel, anyone shares there. That's another way if you investing in property. You can buy a fraction of Sun Hotel. Yes, so you do not need a lot of money. You can buy shares from as little as 150 rands. You can buy from, it's called a fractional share. Maybe a share costs 2,500 rands, one share. You can buy a fraction of that 2,500 rands. You do not have to have the whole 2,500 rands. So it's called fractional shares. So you have a fraction of Sun Hotel.
I hear you.
Yes.
And you can buy that through things like Easy Equities.
Easy Equities.
I love that, because I mean, when we invest in a speech, we would mostly run into shops like retailers and mines, and you don't think about property.
Yeah. She shed some light on that one.
Yeah.
We're talking about real estate, but let me make a disclaimer before things go south or YouTube will try and whatnot. This is not a financial advice.
Got you.
It's also not legal advice.
This is also not a legal advice. So yeah, there's a thin line when Sinazo between on what you are saying, between for a layman sitting there at home, people who don't know this industry or this business. What should one look for in a person that's gonna assist them in this real estate business? Like Sive has asked about the accreditation or licensing and things like that. So you mentioned PPRA. What is PPRA, and what should a normal person, let's say a security guard, who's earning, let's say, maybe 8,000 a month wants to invest. People get scammed out there.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
should they look out for? Or the person that is assisting them, what is a certification, if I might put it that way? What should one have? I've heard you say that a deal sourcer doesn't need any certification, but they must work closely with an attorney or a lawyer who's
Yes.
glued up on the real estate. So, yeah.
Yes. Before you invest in property, I always tell people, do not look at the property first. Look at what makes the property deal or the property sale go through. So you check who's advertising the property. It's an estate agent most of the times. So which agents do they belong to? Are they registered with the PPRA? Do they have an FFC certificate? It's a fidelity fund certificate. Can you locate the offices of the agent? If you can tick those boxes. Okay, that's the first green flag, and then you now move on. You check yourself now. Okay, am I buying the right deal, or am I just invested emotionally in this property? People just advertise to say, buy this property, is going to make you 15,000 rands profit every month. But you need to sit down and do the numbers yourself. Do not just rely on that person's perspective. Do the numbers yourself. How much bond repayments do I pay every month? Municipality levies, water and electricity, maintenance. There are those things that just come up and you did not budget for them. A geyser burst anytime. Do you have flexibility enough for you to cough out money, to cough out any excess money to fund those things? And is your profit going to be able to cover everything and then still give you cash flow, still give you profit at the end of the month? Because it does not make sense for you to invest in a property, but it takes money from you. You need to be cash flowing from day one. So if you're gonna be needed to cough out money, it's a bad deal. It's a very bad deal.
That to me sounds like a car. When you buy a car and you only think about the movement you will be making, you don't think about the maintenance and service and all that. I hear that, and I think that's the mistake that we normally do. Yeah.
But in your explanation, listening to you, are talking about someone who's buying property for investment, like as an investment or for business.
Yes.
I've heard you speaking about cash flow, positive cash flow, and the ROIs, return on investment on the property. But someone would want to buy a property to live in. So you being reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, there was this debate on the socials about a property being an asset or an
liability.
liability. What's your take on that?
Great question.
That one, that one divides the whole world. It's an asset. It's a liability.
Yeah.
So we need to first identify what is an asset, what is a liability. So an asset, in simple, it's something that makes you money. It brings in money. A liability, it takes out money. So if you invest in property for residential purposes, you just want to live there with your family. It's not making you any money, right? You're just paying the bond, you're paying your water, the electricity, the levies. You're not getting anything back. Money is coming out.
Yeah.
That's a liability, right? Yes. Compared to an investment property, you pay your bonds and then tenants pay their rent and you make money. Yes. So a residential property is a liability because it does not make you any money. Okay, I was about to say, but you can take that liability and have some a form of income from it, right? So we always talk about equity in a property. So you have this residential property, you've been paying for it for 5 years, 6 years. And now there's equity that you can pull out from that property. So equity is the money. how can I explain it in
The
simple
money
terms?
that's been accumulated by the
Yes,
property while
yes.
it's there.
Since the day you purchased
bought
it
it.
until now.
Yeah.
Yes, so it has increased in value and everything.
Mm.
So that difference, you can be able to pull it out. You can have that money. If you bought a property for R1 million in 2008, and now it is worth 3 million rands today. So that difference, you can pull it out. You can,
That serves as your equity.
Equity.
yes, that is equity.
But is it always the case though? Because again, I read on the books that they say when you're looking for a property, first thing you must consider from your checklist on the things: location.
Yes.
Sometimes you buy a property in a location, a suburb. You see, 5 years down the line, that suburb is deteriorating. The standard is
Yes.
getting worse instead of being better.
Mm.
Do you still gain equity through such properties?
No, because now the
Surroundings.
surroundings, and now it has taken down the value of your property. So instead of it appreciating, it depreciates. So in that instance, it's very important to know that, okay, the location now has changed, or it is not appreciated in the manner that I had expected it back then. So you may be disappointed when it comes to pulling out equity from that property. Yes, but it is always advisable, before you buy property, you check your location. And when you check your location, you do not check it today. You check 5 years from now. How is this location going to be? How is this place? Are they going to build hospitals? Is there a school that's going to be built there? Is there a business that's going to pop out? So those are the things that appreciate your property. Your property goes up in value. So that's where you can have the advantage of having to pull out equity. Yes.
And while you're still there on the equity thing, and Speecho has mentioned that sometimes you buy it for investment purposes, sometimes you buy it to be your own, right?
Yes.
There's something I came across as I was digging on your profile as well, that the mistake people would make would think that giving a child a house to inherit can actually serve them as the best gift. And you were mentioning that can actually surprise them as they pass away, because they would find out like those kids who inherited the house, they can experience like very high bill of tax. How do they prevent that?
Okay, so if you have a property and you want to gift it to your child, I would rather not give them the property now. Do not give it to them now, because should you it's not always simple as just transferring a property to your child's name. You need to sell the property. So your child needs to buy the property. And if you are gifting it to them, you need to pay donations tax. There's always tax that you're gonna pay in a property sale, or in a transaction where a property goes from one person to the next. So when you sell property, you trigger capital gains tax. So you're gonna pay capital gains tax. So what's in South Africa, they charge about 18%. Yes, 18% of the capital gains. Yes, how much the property has appreciated in value within that period. So your child now is subjected to that. Another thing that you're taking away from your child is the benefits of owning property for the first time. So we know when you buy property, okay, not most people know, when you buy property for the first time, in many states in South Africa as well, you have those benefits. Like in South Africa, you have a first home finance benefit, where you are given a subsidy.
Is it?
Yes, you are given a subsidy for owning a property for the first time.
Does it matter if it's for investment purposes, or it's for like just to your own, to live in it?
No, it doesn't matter. As long as you are buying property for the first time.
Okay.
Yes, so you are eligible to get that. There's a criteria that you need to meet though, but as long as you are owning it for the first time, and you are a legal South African citizen, you are able to get that. So you are taking that away from your child if you are giving them property now for in future when they want to take advantage of all of those things.
So what's the best way to actually give the child that house?
What I would do is put the property in a company or in a trust, and then you say that the beneficiary is your child.
Oh, I
Junior.
see.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sbahle Junior or Kulisani, whoever your child is. And then now the transfer is very simple. It is still in one structure, but now the beneficiary is your child. You do not have to sell it, then it registers with the deeds office, you pay all those taxes and everything. No, you just put it in a structure that's going to be able to protect them. First of all, it's very safe to put it in a good structure. It's better for estate planning as well. It's good for inheritance because you want your kids to inherit your property portfolio. So put it in a good structure and then they inherit it upon your death.
Love it. And there's where you also mentioned something about taking a life cover. Is it a life cover or an insurance that if maybe you're still paying the house and it happens that you die, the thing can cover, the insurance can cover the bond.
Yeah, the debt.
The debt.
Yes.
Yeah. Please explain that. I found it quite interesting as well.
So what I was explaining there, it is the the concept. Actually, Mr. Robert Kiyosaki taught me this, but it's different in the United States than here in South Africa. So people need to be able to make a distinction.
Without cutting you, in every province or state, one should also do their check, due diligence, a background check and whatnot.
Yes.
Something that might apply in New York might be different from LA in Tokyo. So whenever you are about to make that purchase on a real estate, make sure you are familiar with the laws of that particular state.
Yes.
Okay. You get.
That's very important.
But is that something that's commonly applicable in South Africa though?
There are investors who apply that strategy, but I'll explain to you how it is different because a lot of us consume content from the USA.
That's true.
Yes,
yeah, that's
we
true.
consume real estate content from the USA because maybe we have aspirations to own property that side and everything. So we follow property investors from that side.
And sometimes we read their books.
We read their books. Like in my case, you see, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Not everything that's in Rich Dad Poor Dad is applicable in South Africa.
I saw that.
Yes.
Hence I told you in a speech. That's why I'm writing my book. I'm writing my book for South Africans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your target market is very important.
Yes, you need to know who you are writing to so that the content speaks to that target audience. Yes. So what that strategy is buy, borrow, die. So you buy an investment property. Fine, you get a bond and everything. You service the bond year 1, year 2, year 3. And then in year 4, maybe there's equity. Then you borrow from that equity, right? You pull out money. So you are taking out debt. You borrow against your property. You can go and purchase another property. You can go and pay off school fees. You can go and start another business with that equity. And the third step, do not sell that property. Just die. Let me cook.
Hey, I cook.
Let me cook.
We are yours. We are yours.
No, the concept is that do not sell the property. Yes, keep it until you pass away. Right?
I hear you.
Do not sell property. Like I do not advocate for selling property. Once you acquire a property, keep it forever. If it's a good property, it's a good deal, keep it forever. Do not sell it. But different strokes for different folks. So you bought the property and then you borrowed against it and then you died. You don't sell, you die.
Yeah.
Yes. So that happens in the US market. So if you come and bring it now to the South African market, you buy and borrow and refinance. So the die part in South Africa is not it goes off.
Oh, I see. I
Yes.
see.
So you borrow against it, you pull out property and you refinance. Just do that cycle. Do
Mm,
that cycle. Do that cycle. You can own multiple properties from one property. You can buy one property, and then 5 years down the line, you have other multiple properties from this one property.
mm.
So you do not have to earn more to have the second property or the third property or everything. That one property finances all the other. So that's how you grow your property portfolio. Take from one and
I hear you. I hope you guys are still, taking all this value that you are getting. What do you have, Makaveli?
Yeah, because this looks like a master class.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
just an
exactly what it is.
interview.
Yeah,
I hope-
and maybe we should have charged, because you do charge to give this information.
Yeah, for your services.
Yeah, you-
I do have consultation services within our company, and yeah.
Before you chip in, Makaveli, can you please tell people where they can find you, and where they can find you, and maybe see some of the things that you do, because you also have boot camps and all that stuff.
Yes. So on the socials, you can find me on TikTok. My TikTok account is growing exponentially. I
Yeah.
did not expect it to be at this number. And I started my page 7 weeks ago, and we are on 13,500 followers.
That's amazing. That's
Sure.
amazing.
7 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, so people are receiving the information very well. And
that's great.
they actually do get in contact with me. They're like,
Mm.
okay, Sis Nazo, we saw you talk about this. So how can we apply it? How can we do this? And then that's where now I offer boot camps. Like I try to have one boot camp every 2 weeks where people can learn for less, because I do not charge. I feel like this information needs to be out there.
Yeah.
People are not poor. People do not earn less. They just do not have the right information.
That's true.
They
That's
don't
true.
have the right information.
They don't know what they don't know.
They don't know. Yes.
Yeah.
So if we can push out the information, then anyone can. I advocate a lot for owning property or having a title deed, or even if it's not for investment, just do it for your family, do it for your lineage. Have a property, have a title deed, have that thing, you see. So on TikTok, it's Property and Power with Nazo. And then on Instagram, I am Nazo_SA. And Facebook, I am Nazo Nwendi. And then on YouTube, I'm still
growing, right?
still growing.
Yeah. People will come after this.
Yeah, people will come.
yeah.
It's Nazo_N. Yes.
Okay.
You can also hire us for the production of your YouTube.
Sure. Actually.
Yeah.
I should.
That's why media got you.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah, speech. What do you have?
You talk about buy, borrow, and die in America. Buy, borrow, and refinance in South and in different countries. In Kenya, maybe they have buy, borrow, and
disappear.
So there's another. There's another one.
I missed that. I know people who disappear actually. Yeah.
We're talking real estate, Baba. There's another concept. I don't know how they pronounce it. Different people pronounce it. BRRRRR. Buy, renovate, revamp, resale. Yeah, can you explain that one? Just for
that one is straightforward. The BRRRR strategy. You buy, you renovate, you refinance and resell. So when you are flipping a property, we call it flipping. You buy a distressed property, so a property that's below market value, property from motivated sellers. Motivated sellers are people who just want to get rid of property, so they can just put it up for a very low amount. You buy those types of properties, or properties that have not taken care of, like maybe the landlord is not here, so now the property is dilapidated, it's not taken care of. You target those properties. Make sure that property, it's a bad property. It looks bad physically, but it's in a good location.
Sure.
Definitely do that. So you buy that bad property, you buy the baddest, the ugliest property in a good location. If you can master that. So you take that property and fix it up. You buy it below market value, remember. Then you fix it up, you revamp it, you give it a facelift, you put in whatever's broken, you fix everything. Then now you sell that property. So now you bought it for below market value, but now you've fixed it up. You've brought up its value, you've brought
renovated and all
you've
that.
renovated. Now you can charge the market value of that area. So if you got it for 300,000 rands and the market value in that area is 500 rands or 500,000 rands or 700,000, you can charge that amount. So that is how you flip a property. You buy it distressed, you buy it below market value and sell at a higher price.
You know, when we're having this conversation, one of the things that I'm actually realizing as I'm listening to you speaking, right? For me, Makaveli, the reason I was saying this conversation is out of my comfort zone is because when people talk about property, it's like this thing that only certain class of people can access it, right? So now you're simplifying it, just you saying that. Because I'm thinking how many motorcycles I've sold through that method. Like you buy low and it looks dirty, you wash it, you paint it, and you sell it. And it's the same thing that you're doing right here, right?
Across all
I love
industries.
it.
Across all industries.
How do you describe the stigma that people have around property that you also come across? Like, what is it that you think is holding people back from entering this space?
It's. Did you want to say Machiavelli?
I think, she said it's information, number one.
Yes.
Yeah. And then another one, maybe. It's people are not informed.
People are just not informed.
Yeah.
Because if you have the right information, then the amount of money that you have is not going to stop you. You can have 0 rands and then you can be able to still invest in property.
You can still connect
you have
the
the
dots.
right information. Yes. So it's very important for people to equip themselves with information. So information is accessible everywhere these days. There's the internet, then there's people like me. You can follow me and learn from me. You can read books, you can attend seminars. There's a lot of ways where you can acquire information and apply that information without you breaking the bank or being wealthy, as people always think you need to be wealthy before you invest in property. So we need to break that stigma. Anyone can invest in property.
I get you. Yeah. Anything, Makaveli?
You spoke about first-time home finance scheme. And it has anything must has its own requirements and whatnot. Just briefly, what is that? How does it work in South African context? Of course. I have another question again. Okay, this
is it a follow-up from this one?
Nah, not necessary.
Oh, okay. Okay, so a first home finance is a subsidy, right, for people who are buying property for the first time in South Africa. So, like I said, you're buying property for the first time, whether it's for investment or it's for residential, it doesn't matter. As long as you meet these criteria, you are earning between 3,501 rands and 22,000 rands. So this subsidy is to assist those people who earn, but they do not earn enough to purchase property. You know, most there's that
to qualify.
Yeah, to qualify. There's that group in the middle. Some are poor, some are rich, and then there's those in the middle where they work, they have income, but it's not enough.
Yeah, like those who stay Brandbach flats. That's what. Yeah, but I hear you. Please continue.
Yes. So so that subsidy is from the Department of Human Settlements. So you apply for your bond. Let's say you saw a property, then you apply for a bond, and your estate agent, together with that bond application, they apply for the subsidy. So they're gonna vet you. Are you South African citizen? Are you within the legal age? You earn between the 3,501 and 22,000 rands. and
A bank statement.
yeah,
For
your pay slips.
affordability.
Yes, your pay slips, your bank statements. Do you have dependents? What else? Are you married or are you divorced? And they're gonna need proof for everything. Ne? If you are divorced, they need a divorce decree. If you're married, they need your marriage certificate. Even for people who are cohabiting, they can still qualify for the subsidy. Dependents. The most misunderstood part is the dependence part. Let's say you do not have any kids, and now people disqualify themselves and say, I do not have any dependents, so I do not qualify for the subsidy. It's actually not correct. It's not true. You can have your brother is a dependent. Your brother is not working, they're dependent on you. That is a dependent. They do not have to be your biological children. You can have your grandmother or anyone, maybe someone is disabled, they're depending on you. That is a dependent. So you submit as proof of dependency, then your application will go through. So the funds range from 1,000 to 169,000, depending on how much you earn. So there's a table that shows if you earn this much, you qualify for this much subsidy. If you earn this much, the lesser you earn, the more subsidy you get.
I hear you.
Yes.
And while you're still there, I think this question is tied up to what she's talking about right now. I thought, and I'm pretty sure other people think the same way as well. On our viewers there, I thought the only way to, or two ways to buy a house or maybe a property, it would be through cash or through banking. And you appear to have information about other institutions that can actually help you to buy a house. Please educate us on that.
So not all of us have the privilege of having cash to buy property. Actually, I do not advocate for buying property for cash.
Why?
It's like you're leaving a lot of money on the table when you're buying property cash. So instead of using your cash, use the bank's cash.
Other people's money.
Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you
People's
mean.
Use
money
the
concept.
bank's money. Don't use your money.
Oh, I
Save your
see.
money. The bank is
Or
there.
do other things with it.
Yeah, the
I
bank is
see.
there to give you money. So
All assets, actually. Now, for all assets, anything
don't
that's
use your money.
generating money for you, don't use your
Don't
money.
use your own money. Use
Yeah,
other
I
people's
think
money.
I think we can have a pushback there. I'm for cash. I'm cash guy.
You're a cash guy, ne?
Do it cash.
Yeah.
I think there's a training that comes with accumulating. There's a training like the
Mindset.
psychological money mindset, or psychologically, you get trained on maybe if you want to buy something cash,
Yes.
for you to get there. Like you train yourself how to manage your cash flow and all that.
Yes,
But I
yes.
think that's the pushback that I have, that it trains you, because sometimes I think if you get a bigger debt or maybe loan and you have no idea of how to manage the money that play around that level, you're gonna lose them all.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I don't know, that line by Casper Nyovest. They tried to buy what I bought and they ended up selling it. I think those who end up selling it most of the time is people who have no idea that with more money comes,
Yeah, it's all about discipline for both of them, actually. Using other
let's have a
people's
conversation
money.
around that, actually.
Okay.
Since you
Yeah.
the loan and the cash and the bank.
Okay. Did she answer the question? Let her
No,
answer.
no,
the,
I have
answer the
not.
question, and then we can.
What? Please rephrase again. What was the question?
So I was saying,
Or other ways of
other
ways of getting money
besides cash and bank finance.
banking finance. So, like I said, we don't have the privilege of having cash. We also sometimes do not qualify at banks. Like you go to, are we allowed to mention names?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Brands?
Yeah.
You go to Absa. You apply for a home loan, and then they decline you for whatever reason that they decline you for. You go to Standard Bank. Standard Bank also declines you. But disclaimer: if a lot of institutions decline you, then there must be a problem, right? Yeah. But you have other options. You can approach other financing private institutions that give out financing. What comes to mind? TURF. They finance property transactions in the inner cities.
Mm.
Yes.
Some of them, they must follow.
Yeah.
Follow me on TikTok for more.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give them 2. Give them 2. I mean, they following us. Yeah, give
They
them
must
2.
subscribe, like, and share this video.
Yes,
I
and
said
then I'm
before, yeah, this is a master class. As we have promised that
Yeah.
we're gonna bring guests that will inform and enlighten you guys there
Yeah.
at home.
But I do not
While
like
entertaining.
gatekeeping.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
do not like
but he's
gatekeeping.
got a point. Yeah, just give us 2.
Mm.
Others, they can find them on your profile.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's TURF. I mentioned TURF. They
Mm.
finance inner city property transactions, and then
Do you also qualify for subsidy if you go through these institutions as a first-time buyer?
yes,
Okay.
yes, as long as you are buying property for the first time,
Okay.
yes, you can apply independently. You can apply for the subsidy independently, like on by yourself on the side and everything, especially if you are going with TURF, not a bank.
Mm.
So you just do that by yourself. It's not a difficult process.
Yeah.
So you mean you can run this process, two processes concurrently?
Yes, you
While
can
applying maybe for the bank by
for the home
assisted
loan.
home loan, I
Yeah.
mean assisted maybe by a real estate agent, and then
Mm.
on the other side,
Yes,
and
what's
go
also
through
nice,
with the TURF.
what's also nice
For the
about
same
are
property.
you saying
Yes.
that, or you were
Mm.
talking about the certificate? You can like the I mean, not the certificate, the subsidy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Mm.
okay.
You can
You
apply for
can-
your loan, for your
Mm.
home loan,
Mhm.
and then apply for your subsidy on the
Mm.
side.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are instances whereby maybe you did not have this information. You didn't know that there's a subsidy for
Yeah.
buying property for the first time. You only realize 6 months down the line, and you've already bought your property.
Mm.
You can still apply for that subsidy a
Gotcha.
year after.
Mm.
It's
12 months
it's
after.
nice here in South Africa. In South Africa, there are a lot of subsidy. There's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it just needs people
need
with
to know.
information
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to
And
submit
we need
the
to take
required
advantage of these things, guys.
Exactly.
We need to apply for these subsidies.
Mm.
They are rightfully ours. So a year later, you can still apply for the subsidy if you missed it the first time when you're applying for your home loan.
Aye.
Yes.
Mm.
So for someone who has already bought property for the first time and they didn't apply for the subsidy, just make sure before the 12 months lapses, you apply for the
And
Love it,
you
love
guys
it.
said you must not gatekeep information. Even at your workplace, most of the people who are working, government employees, even some private companies, they also have a subsidy.
subsidies. Yes.
Mm.
You just go to that particular department, HR or finance, they will direct you where to go, what to submit, because they have your monies there.
Mm.
And then having real estate, it's one of those human rights in South Africa. You have a right to be sheltered, to have
Yes.
shelter and things like that. So people must not always fight for RDPs and free housing and whatnot. There are schemes and there are benefits for every market or group or bracket, as she has said.
Mm.
And then they will check and explain for you. If you are earning below this, from this bracket, you qualify for this subsidy.
Mm.
Because RDP houses are also a subsidy,
Mm.
but it is
Yes.
100% subsidy. I always make this example with our schooling system, our tertiary university. We have NSFAS who subsidize the students 100%,
Mm.
and then we have other bursaries that are coming from CETA. Maybe they would say we subsidize for tuition only.
yeah.
Yeah,
Accommodation.
and then we have other bursaries that would say would assist you with just accommodation,
Mm.
and you can get all three of them if you qualify for all three of them. There are students who have NSFAS, who have another bursary and another bursary. There's enough for everyone.
I hear you.
Yeah, it's the same with property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And what else?
Oh, I mentioned TURF.
You keep dragging this thing. You don't want her to drop. You don't want her to drop the other.
You don't want me to share this information?
You want to-
I'm also trying to drop, like, you know what I like to do? To put things into perspective, into reality. Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Nah, I
okay.
got you. I got you. Please drop the second
When
one.
you want the names.
Yeah, Masieni. I like understanding things at a simple level, not because that's the only level I can understand. So the more things are simplified and clarified, that's the better. And I
Yeah.
believe that I'm
Yeah.
behind this mic representing those people.
Yes, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of us who like things simplified.
You
We
understand
do
what I
not
mean?
want complex things.
Yeah.
No, the simpler the better.
Yeah. So it's TEF and what else?
It's tough.
Mm.
It's Spartan.
Yeah.
So Spartan can fund your property purchase,
Mm.
anything from 7 million to 75 million rands. So if you have maybe a development that you want to start,
Mm-hmm.
you approach those people. You approach Spartan, they give you apply obviously, and then they vet you and everything. If they're happy with you, they fund you, and then you pay back the loan. Also remember, you need to pay it back. You need to pay it back with interest. You need to pay it back within a given time frame. So if they give you 5 years or 20 years, you need to still pay it back. So those are the institutions that you can approach. There's more.
Yeah, that
there's a
they
lot
will
of
find them when they follow you, all right? Makaveli, you said you have a question. Yeah.
Okay. What would you advise? Speaking about the first-time owners, first-time real estate buyer, property, yeah. Where would you advise? Oh, yeah. What would you advise? There are new developments popping up everywhere now. What should they look out for? Or would you advise people to buy on new developments instead of old ones? And what are the pros and cons between new developments that are popping up everywhere now and old properties?
So with property investing, you need to know yourself. Are you willing to take risks? Are you a person who is willing to take a lot of risk, or you just have little tolerance for risk? You just want something that's manageable, just want something that's safe or whatever. So if you are buying in a development, especially a new development, you are buying off plan. The building is not there yet. The developer is just selling you that property or
Yeah.
that structure. It's not there yet.
Mm.
So it's only on paper. So if you want to buy off plan, you need to be ready to be disappointed, because this is something that's only on paper. You cannot walk into it and check, oh, okay, the cupboards are working, the square meters are this much and whatnot. Are you willing to risk that? Also, do your research on the developer. What have they done before? Their previous developments, were the people happy? Are the developments looked after? People exiting, like people are selling now their units in that development. They do not want to have their units there. They rather go in and buy somewhere else. They are not happy with how everything is run. So you need to check a lot of things before you buy off plan. Are you willing to risk not having that thing in physical form at the moment? And should you be disappointed with the end result at the end of the day? What's your exit strategy? Are you gonna exit and lose money, or are you gonna exit and still keep your money that you invested?
Okay. Then the advantage is you don't pay a transfer cost.
Yes, you don't pay transfer costs. People
Oh, you
love
don't?
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
you don't, because it's
We
a
are the
new
first time.
We are the first thing.
It's not being transferred from the
from
developer
Sinazo
to you.
to whoever.
But yeah, I think like everything else, like that balance the risk, right? It create more appetite for you to take it, since you
Yes,
don't pay
transfer.
yeah,
That's what
That's-
a lot of agents do. They write
Marketing
no
structure.
transfer costs
Oh,
to
yeah.
lure you
Mm.
into it. Yeah,
I
no
see.
transfer costs. Yeah,
Mm.
because they can be quite high, ne?
Yeah.
The transfer fees. So when they put that no transfer fees, then you're enticed and you want to buy. Yeah.
The transfer cost is one of the things that when you are looking for a property, you should do those calculations and consider them. if you want, let me make an example, a house for 1 million. Usually transfer cost, it's how much percentage of that 1 million? It depends on the area. Actually, there's a lot at stake in
There's a lot. Also, there is a bracket where you start paying transfer costs and everything. Some properties are they cost less, and then you don't pay a lot of fees. But the higher you go, then you pay those transfer fees.
There's transfer fees, and then there's bond registration
Bond
fees
registration
or
fees.
convenience. So at below 1 million, or what?
Below 1.2.
Below 1.2, you don't pay transfer costs.
Yes.
You only pay inconveniencing fees.
Yes, and then going up, you pay.
And then it goes with the bracket and the percentage for a particular bracket. Yeah.
How much?
Those are the mostly banks. If you are being financed by a bank, they don't cover those. So when you apply for your affordability, you must.
They only take into consideration your bond repayments, your monthly repayment. Oh, your monthly repayments will be 3,500 rand, and I think, I can afford that, and then you accept the offer. And you still have a lot of fees that you're gonna pay
before that transaction is complete. Upfront.
I love this conversation because I mean, some of us have never bought a property, so we're already channeled. We're already channeled to not to make the common mistakes that first buyers make. But thank you so much for actually bringing this. What time are we running on speech? I actually have some questions as well. Right?
1 hour exactly now.
1 hour. Can we push it to 1 hour 10 minutes?
That's okay, as long as we are sharing information.
Yeah. Can I ask this question? There's some things that you also mentioned. For you to get more context of some of the things that we're gonna talk about, please check her profile as she has explained earlier. So you say
you're also gonna write them on the.
I'll put them on the description there. Please check it out. So there are things that make us unattractive to the bank. What are those things that make us less attractive to the bank? And on your profile also, you read that she was in the banking space, right?
Yes. And make that disclaimer. Yes.
For me, like as an individual who is not attractive to the bank, how do I get to be attractive to the bank?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this topic actually sparked a lot of comments online when I shared it, that you are not attractive to the bank when your financial discipline is just questionable, right? We all know that you need to have a good credit score. Oh yeah, that one is a given. You need to have a good credit score.
Hey, didn't you forget your coffee?
No, I'm still sipping on it. Yeah, you need to have a good credit score.
Yeah.
You need to earn enough. Yeah, not a lot, just enough. You need to remember when they request for your bank statement. They're not only checking if there's money coming in on the 15th when you get paid and whatever. They check the activity there. As someone who has worked in the bank, they check your financial activity. They do not just check, oh, okay, your salary came through, whatever, we'll be able to deduct our bond repayments. They check, what do you purchase with your money? Who do you pay? Do you have garnishee orders against your name? Do you frequently buy these betting games, these things, Aviator, whatnot?
Yeah, the gambling thing.
Yes.
Forex.
Is Forex part of it?
No. Forex is actually big in the banks.
So that makes you attractive.
Depending on your bank statement, people are blowing out there.
We all know the Forex guy that's watching this. Yeah, my brother.
Don't blow accounts.
Yeah.
They check you buy alcohol. Do you check all of those things?
Oh, really?
Yes, they check your alcohol purchases.
Nightclubs,
strip clubs, all of those things. And the biggest misconception is that people think when you have all of those things, the bank will reject you. The bank might finance you, but they're going to charge you high interest because you are a high-risk client, right? You do not have financial discipline. You do not pay people on time. You reverse your debit orders. you do all of those things. So you might earn enough money or a high salary, but your discipline, your financial discipline, how you move your money, it's questionable. Then they might finance you, but at a higher interest. So we know most when you are servicing debt, especially a home loan, the first 10 years you are just paying the interest. You are not touching the balance of the home loan, just paying off interest. So yeah, the higher interest you pay, the poorer you are, or the more you pay. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I gotta work on being attractive on a bank, eh?
Yeah, try to
To
be.
the bank.
It also gives you leverage. It gives you power when you are attractive. When you don't have all of those things, you are able to negotiate for lower
Negotiation
interest.
power.
You can say, no, I am this kind of person. Look at my bank statements. I pay all my debit orders on time. I service all my debts and everything. Can we please take my interest rates lower because I have good credit score. I pay my. You give them all the reasons, and then they can take your interest rates down.
You even threaten them with their to take the business to their competitors.
You can say, okay, if you're not taking my interest down, then I'll approach the next bank.
Mm.
If they don't want to lose you, they will take it down.
They will lower your interest.
What do you say to statements like, I think I've heard this, that the bank won't give you money to buy an asset, but it will give you money to actually buy a liability. How true is that in here? And tied up to that, what was your biggest lesson while you're still in the banking sector? What was your biggest lesson around that space?
When they say the banks will not give you money to buy an asset, but they will give you money to buy a liability, it's kind of, when it comes in the context of property investment, it's kind of not true. I think the banks actually want to give us money to invest in property.
So that's a misconception.
It's a
That's a myth.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yes. So we are busting that myth. So the banks actually want us to come and take out the home loan. They need us. The banks need us. We don't need them.
But those, actually, everyone, even if your credit score is bad, they still need you because they're all gonna hit you with the high
more.
interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
The more interest they charge, the more business for them, the more money for them. So
You see,
with property investment, they want us to come and take out the home loan. And it's an investment, it's not a liability.
the banks doesn't want to keep their inventory, né? Because if a property is there in the bank's name, it's sort of an inventory that it's sitting there.
Yeah, it's
So
not
if you
making
go
money.
there and ask
take
for
it.
that and take for that inventory, so they're taking that responsibility away from them and to you, and then they make money. You keep the inventory. It's up to you what you do with it. As long as you keep your word. If you said you're gonna pay on the 15th, you pay. So the issue of the credit score is very serious. That's where you negotiate your interest, and that's where you are reliable. And the issue again, you're talking about cash is king and
Debt
debt is yeah. Yeah. You wanted us to talk about that.
We can talk about that. I want to hear the lesson that she learned in the banking space.
Yes, from working in the bank.
And by the way, this is not financial advice, guys.
Yeah, it's not.
This is just a conversation. We
It's
are not
based on our
licensed to
experience.
give financial advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the biggest lesson,
I'm glad actually you're here, Yazis Nazo, because we've never had this conversation before.
really,
Yeah, the conversation about property and banking and all that, we've never. So you're bringing an not ordinary value. So
Yeah.
thanks.
I'm sensing a comeback. A part two.
What was the biggest lesson?
You know what I discovered
Yeah.
working at the bank is that the people who look successful are not the most successful. The people who are flashy, drive luxury cars and everything, they do not own assets, they do not have investments, they do not have portfolios. An ordinary person who walks through the bank with shorts and flip-flops, that person has a wealth of assets. They have these portfolios so big, you'll be blown away. You'll compare their appearance to their portfolio, and you'll be like, nah, it does not match. It does not match. So an ordinary looking person is the wealthiest that I've seen. So when you see someone flashy and everything,
Yeah.
it does
A
not,
red flag.
it does not
It's not
usually
make sure.
mean they have assets, they have investments, they have land and all of these things. No, they only have the flashy outfits and everything.
So that's how you judge them. That's how you judge them, guys. You know,
Yeah.
Well,
If someone
when they're asking the number, you're
When
like,
they-
"Are you
when-
wearing a short?"
the one who's wearing a short and an unironed t-shirt is the one. It's usually the one.
I hear you. Let's go. What's
we're being judged out here.
Our
We're being profiled out there.
going to
Aye.
I think that's true because we see it also even on social media.
This culture.
The guys with the slay queens, when they get arrested, you see like the things that
Yes.
they lose and the strategy in which they lose them as well. You know,
Yes.
Yeah, so-
it always tells us that something is not
adding up.
not
Yeah.
adding up,
Do you have
yeah.
another question, Machiavelli, before we wrap up, Matok?
Yeah, there's a lot we need to unpack here. So in part 2, we will unpack. We see a lot of people talking about student accommodation. Yeah. What's your say on that?
Student accommodation, that is one of the investment strategies that I really like. I really like student accommodation, and remember I won an award.
Yes, tell us about that award.
Yes. So they were I was in a incubation program. So I was managing a student accommodation.
Mhm.
So that's how I came up top entrepreneur. So student accommodation is one of the, I would say, evergreen type of investment strategy in South Africa,
Mhm.
because for as long as there's pupils in high school graduating matric, they are going to varsity, they're going to need a place to stay. The more we have kids, they go through primary school, high school, then varsity, they're going to need a place to stay. We're not going to stop producing children. So student accommodation is always going to be in need. There's always going to be people who need a place to stay. And what's nice is that it's nice for us out of campus student accommodation, because reses on campus, they get full very quickly and they cannot accommodate all these kids that want a place to stay. So that is where now off campus student accommodation is a need, and it is evergreen because they cannot take the whole capacity at the reses. So now student accommodation is, for me, it's lucrative and it's evergreen in that sense.
But what are some of the challenges that comes with owning student accommodation?
Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There is a lot. So when you invest in
Can they
student
possibly take
accommodation-
you out of the business as well? Like those challenges?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. So if when people say to you, student accommodation is the best strategy, and then you just go in without doing
Yeah.
your proper
Yeah.
due diligence,
Yeah.
You'll
they will
ban.
spit you out. They'll spit you out. So before you invest with any strategy, before you invest in property, you need to do your numbers first. You
Mm.
don't just go in. You can have your property in the best location, but if you did not run your numbers correctly,
Mm.
you will be spit out. So you need to know what goes into running a student accommodation. Students are they are carefree. They can ruin your property. So you need to be able to have funds to fix your property all the time. Because if you also don't fix it, it's not going to be attractive.
Mm.
You need to maintenance. You need to have maintenance because you are housing 10 students. Obviously, the
wear and tear,
the wear and tear, the drainage system is going to be overwhelmed. All of those things.
the upkeep and maintenance.
Yes. you need to have people who are going to look after those kids.
Mm.
So with an ordinary property investment, maybe you're renting out to a
Working
a
class.
working class or a family. Those people are responsible and
Mm.
stuff. They take care of your property. But with students, they will tell you, NSFAS has paid for me, so I'm gonna do anything. I'm gonna shower for 2 hours in hot water. I'm gonna stay up all night and whatever. I need my Wi-Fi running very, very at a very high speed. You need to be able to give them those things. So a student accommodation is not really a passive income. People say it's passive income or get rich quick
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing. No, it's not a lottery ticket. You are gonna be hands-on in a student accommodation. And if you did not run your numbers before you invest, then it's gonna be a frustration for you.
I get you.
And to add on that, the regulations as well, because you need to do your research on that particular district that you're gonna develop or invest that in student accommodation around that university. The university, the institution itself will have its own requirements, and the district, like the municipality or the metro, will have their own regulations and requirements. You need to meet those things. Yeah. But we all know with South Africa, we all have these standards and regulations and whatnot, but enforcing them, it's another different story.
Yeah.
So, but you need to be well informed and do the right thing, because you're dealing with people's lives here. And
True.
yeah,
True.
besides it being a business, but there's people's lives at stake, and then the well-being and the environment must be conducive.
You actually just have to put the priorities of the students before your business and everything. Your students must be happy. They must have a conducive environment.
And diversify. Don't just look for NSFAS only. I'm targeting NSFAS. They have other bursaries. There are sitters out there. There
Or
are
cash-paying students.
cash-paying people out there. There's NSFAS. There are other bursaries. So you must just diversify your portfolio within student accommodation.
Sis Nazo, thank you so much for coming to the show. I want to ask this last question on my side, and you can wrap up with yours, Makaveli. From these two mentors that I know of yours, Thapelo Jonasi, what did you learn from him? And yeah, you can start with him and Robert Kiyosaki as well. What was like the most outstanding lesson? I know that they can teach you a lot of things, but there's this one thing that you don't forget, maybe from each of them.
With Mr. Thapelo Jonas, I remember it was more of mindset shift.
Yeah.
Yes. So I learned a lot about the mindset, how we should unlearn things, how we were brought up, some of the concepts that we were brought up with, some of the beliefs that we were brought up with our parents, especially in their era of growing up. Maybe they were relevant back then, those beliefs, but now in this era, we cannot always apply what they taught us back then. So anything to do with mindset and having the right attitude towards life. He's a certified life coach, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he is the best person. If you want to shift your mindset and you is it neuroscience or what? He did that. He did that for me. Mindset shift. And then Mr. Robert, with him it's real estate and debt. Use debt. Like you said, you are a cash guy. That guy will tell you that is BS. Debt.
That's a polite way of saying it. It's not you saying it, right?
It's not me.
He's open about it.
That guy is open and he is like straightforward. Especially as he gets older. I think he gets more truthful and more hardcore as he gets older. He's gonna tell you that's BS.
Unfiltered.
Yes, unfiltered. Yeah. So use other people's money to not use your money. Use debt. Have discipline in using debt. Don't take out debt to go and buy clothes or go and buy a car. No, buy income producing assets with your debt.
Right.
Do you know how many houses he owns?
No, I have no idea.
Mr. Robert Kiyosaki.
How many?
So in 2024, he had 15,000 houses.
Yeah.
And he's still acquiring more.
And he acquired more, obviously, after that.
Yeah.
And that's not houses that he co-owns with Kim, his wife.
Mm.
It's
His
own houses.
Yeah.
As Robert. And then there's houses that he co-owns with other partners and his wife, all of those things. But self. Would you have in your lifetime? Would you have 15,000?
Yes, it's possible. If another man did it,
Definitely.
it's possible. It's
Yes.
just, I think it's just a matter of interest and passion. Those things, they count a lot. You know, things don't mean the same thing, or they don't have the same meaning to all of us. You know, yeah. Some people have 15,000 cows. You know,
Yes.
because they are more.
Yeah.
They are farmers.
They are more farmers.
Yeah. They see value in livestock.
Yeah. What's your 15,000 question?
15,000 children.
Yeah. That's my goal, actually. Yeah. The Bible says multiply. Yeah.
Be fruitful and multiply.
15,000 kids. Thank you very much, Sinazo, for the insightful information. I'm sure our viewers, our subscribers, our followers enjoyed this conversation we had, and I hope it felt like a conversation, not an interview. Even though I feel like it was a masterclass. So we'll definitely have you for part 2. And people should just follow you. Property with Nazo.
Property and Power.
Property and Power with
Power.
Nazo.
Yeah.
Nazo on YouTube. Nazo_N and all that. Yeah. Information is power. Applied information, actually. You might have information, but if you do not apply it, information. So yeah, let's just not be scared to fail, because failure is also part of the game. So, and if you fail, you're probably moving somewhere. So let's fail forward. Yeah. Without saying too much, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we'll see you soon. To all the viewers out there, I'm sure you've taken notes. And this is us via infotainment. I hope you were informed and entertained at the very same time. So let's apply, guys. There's enough for everyone. Real estate, it's they don't make land anymore.
What did you think, Sinaso, about the Lorry Park thing? That now they, like, the municipality won the court case against the DA. And what's your take on the? I get it. There are houses here, and then they're starting these mikukus and all that. Like, what's your whole view on this thing, since it involves land?
As an investor, from an investor
Please.
a point of view, I am for any land that you have not been given, or any land that has not been given to you, or is lawfully you've acquired it lawfully in everything. Please do not interfere with it, because also, as South Africa, we are trying to attract investors into our shows. So now, should someone from a different state, someone wants to invest in South Africa, and they have identified a place where they say, okay, I'd like to invest here. And then they come, and now a year later or a year down the line, there's informal settlements or informal squatter camps around their investment or their development. How is that going to look now? They're going to pull out and go and invest where things are more stable, where citizens follow the laws and everything. So from an investor point of view, please don't
devalue the land.
Yeah, you're devaluing the land. No. And it's not even for us citizens, it's for attracting investors.
I see.
Into our country. So we need to keep it attractive and bring the money in.
No, thank you so much again for coming. And what would you like to say to what was your last word? Followers, prospectives,
prospective investors, your prospective clients.
Yeah.
I would say aim to have a title deed or a piece of land in your lifetime. And you do not have to build something big or something for investment, but having a piece of land is like it keeps your dignity. It's your lineage is like it is protected, and you know that should anything happen to you, your children or your family has a place that they can call their own. So everyone should aim to have a piece of land, should aim to have a house. So, and it's really not difficult to own a house in South Africa. So I live by that motto. Aim to have a house or a piece of land. And you can follow me for more tips and more strategies on my socials. The handles will be on the description box.
For sure. And from us, that's it. Do you want to say anything?
Asvaya.
From us, until we see you again on the next show, thank you so much for watching up to this point.
Thank you.